Carol, are you connecting us to Mars or what? Okay, thank you. All right,
Anything never asks me. Yes, we are live now.
great. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, thank you so much for tuning in to the third edition of Msingi Talks. Since COVID came, we've not been able to meet physically, but we've been having fantastic online conversations. And today's topic is extremely amazing. We are discussing the songs we sing. And with me today, I have a great panel of, music recordists, people who are poets, and we have, a pastor, campus pastor. And we're just going to dissect this conversation entirely into understanding the role of music in talking about social justice in the church. My name is Dannish Odongo. I'm a journalist. I speak a lot about mental health and governance in Kenya, and today I'll be moderating this conversation. And let's just, dive right into it. Richard, kwanza tungoje kwanza wageni wajiintroduce. Lusanda, tell us your name and what you do, and where you're coming from. Yeah.
Hi everyone. Hi, Msingi family. Hello to our viewers. My name is Lusanda Mashua. I actually work for a ministry called RZIM, Ravi Zacharias International Ministries. I work as a speaker. I'm an apologist. I am also a person who's very passionate about Jesus and social justice. And for me, my faith formation, especially in the more recent years, I've just found these two things inextricably linked. And I'm also a creative, and I love the arts. I've had a time of being a worship leader and a songwriter, and I've just kind of been moving in these spheres. I used to serve as a campus pastor, and that morphed into now my career as an apologist for RZM. I'm in Cape Town, Mzansi, South Africa, and I'm very, very honored to be here, Richard. Thank you so much, Dannish.
Thank you so much, Lusanda. Jason, bro, man, how you doing? Tell us who you are, and that interesting name, Propaganda, where it came from.
Yeah. What's up, y'all? Propaganda, South Central Los Angeles, the other end of the diaspora. I got my name Propaganda from, it's not as exciting as one would think. It was me and my cousin. We were teenagers, and we just thought the word sounded cool, and just kind of like put it together. And then later on kind of learned like what it meant to, like, whether it was evangelism or visual arts. I was a visual artist first, and then to whether it was visual arts or poetry or music or activism, it all kind of fell under that term. So it just kind of stuck. But yeah, we were kidding around when we were teenagers, and it never left.
Okay. Your name, what else do you do apart from poetry?
Yeah. I'm sorry. Yeah, I apologize. Yeah. So I sort of do a hybrid of like hip hop and poetry. Run a podcast, one with my wife called Red Couch Podcast, and where we talk about like social and cultural and political commentary, but from a Black and Latino perspective. Run another one called Hood Politics, which is just kind of sort of this idea of, I think a lot of times, like, what's going on in the news can seem like you and I as like, just regular people are not equipped, you know what I'm saying, to talk about, like, these people are somehow smarter than us. But I have found that politics is just like middle school. It's just like, just running the streets. It's just a whole bunch of gangs with a lot of money and nice suits, Yeah. So just kind of taking on like sort of the daily politics and breaking it down from there. I'm the son of a Black Panther. So I've been involved in sort of justice work from day one. And like, like legitimately day one, because of sort of my family makeup. And I really, 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 really love coffee. And I want to remind all of you African listeners that it came from you. You own this. Don't let everybody else tell you when you go into your capital cities, that you are the expert. It only grows at the equator. So just sip your juice.
Sip your juice.
Thank you so
Amen.
much, Jason. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Richard, Richard.
Cool. Hi everyone.
Hi.
Singi, everyone on Facebook. My name is Richard Ngugi. I'm from, I won't say I'm from Nairobi, Kenya, but I don't live in Nairobi. I live an hour out of Nairobi in a small town called Moore Hills, up in the hills.
Kwa kina Sonko.
What I do, yeah, Sonko Road, although we're not neighbors, but
Yeah.
that's what they call it. So let's see. I was born, grew up in Nairobi, in a part called Kawangware. Then we moved to an area called Satellite. I've always loved music. I've led a lot of worship in our church, and I also love writing. But yeah, I would describe myself as a reluctant writer. It's kind of God has to push me to the wall to write something and put something in my heart so heavy. And I mean, from a simple Facebook post that's calling out something, whether in the church or in the workplace. God has to really just lay it heavy on my heart for me to do it. So He has to push me. I think 2 years ago, my wife and I, we wrote a musical that was called Reimagining Christmas. Because my journey to start just reimagining the Christian faith and everything about it started maybe 3 to 4 years ago. And yeah, that was kind of a response to what we were going through at that time. Just seeing how Christmas, that wonderful Christmas story that just really talks about a God who cared for the world so much, has sort of been hijacked through the years into just something so commercial and so out of context. And so we just felt really challenged to ask people to begin to reimagine, this Jesus who was born in Nazareth. So we're still on that journey, just trying to see what can come out of where God is taking us. We have 3 children, and that's. I work in television as a sound recordist, on films and commercials, but as a freelancer. I think that's a good summary.
Okay. Thank you so much, Richard. And now to the lady of the hour, Carol Ng'ang'a. Carol, many people just know you bring us together under Msingi Trust, but people do not really, I don't know if you ever introduced yourself when you're doing our Msingi Talks. But give you the honors to tell the people who you are and why you do what you do.
I need to unmute myself.
Yeah.
Pressure. So my name is Carol Ng'ang'a. I am a community worker. I am learning to embrace the work of being a public theologian, someone who wants to connect the world of the Bible to the lived realities. So I call myself the donkey of Msingi. I do all the donkey work. I'm the founder of Msingi, founded in 2017. And the hope is and the work that we're doing is to connect the world of faith, social justice, and activism, because those are worlds that I really, really love, and worlds that I find joy in, but sometimes they clash. And there are places where they should unite more than clash. So that's what I do every day. And I am honored to have you all here. Thank you for joining me and joining us as we explore what our faith and justice and music and song all have to do with each other.
Right. Carol, and you're not telling them that is it a Bachelor of Theology in Community Development from Cornerstone
Oh,
Institute? Is that,
yes.
yeah.
Oh, yes, yes. I do. I have a very, I love the combination of my degree is that it's actually brings together the worlds that I am from. So it's a Bachelor's of Theology in Community Development, and I got that from Cornerstone Institute in Cape Town. And that's where, through my friends, I got to meet Lusanda. So it has been being in Cape Town. Actually, my dream of Singi was born and birthed and keeps being found from Cape Town. So I'm honored to have had that. Yeah.
All right, thank you so much. But before we dive in, Carol, we'd like to know more about Msingi Trust. How do you plug in and how can you support the work the amazing work that they do? Carol.
All right.
What does social justice, activism, advocacy, and the Christian faith have in common? Is pursuing justice at all levels a spiritual discipline? How do we influence church leaders and Christians to advocate for justice and fight injustice? How can churches become the first line of defense for the socially unprotected? Msingi is a movement of people spurred by their Christian faith to answer these questions about social justice, advocacy, and activism. Msingi believes the church can be empowered to redemptively advocate for justice for the most oppressed, for those relegated to the fringes of society, for the disempowered, and those without access to power. In his inaugural sermon, Jesus spoke about those on the margins of society, about their freedom and their liberation. Pursuing justice is at the core of being a Jesus follower. Justice and righteousness is the foundation of God's throne. Msingi's name, call, heart, and bold mission draws from this, holding true to the tenets of God's kingdom. Our faith propels us to seek justice and spend ourselves on behalf of the poor. Justice is their shield and defender. At Msingi, we are about connecting the struggles that we all face. We are creating safe spaces to converse about social justice, curating content that enhances justice conversations, and in this way, uniting the stand for social justice and for advocacy. Engage the content, join in conversations, connect to the movement. This is Msingi.
Well, thank you so much, Carol. I'll be inviting you to tell us more about how we can plug into Msingi. But let's just dive right into it. Lusanda, you said that you are a creative and you are a worship leader and you write music. Why is it important for us to have these conversations today about the songs we sing? Why is it important? Why does it matter?
Sorry, I need to unmute as well. Thank you so much, my brother, for that question. So for me, as a Black Christian woman, I found that, especially in this cultural moment that we're in, with what's happening around the world, and also the visibility of social ills, in particular, the way in which the questions come to the faith community in a different and more textured way that they used to before, where the questions about justice are not just coming so that we respond with charity, but the questions about justice are firstly coming in a way that we have to respond with self-seeking and wanting to be accountable for what our faith community collectively and globally has been responsible for. And I found that as a creative, and in particular, a creative who's passionate about the anthems that come from us, I feel like we can't be the same songs as usual. Our friend and my mentor, Sandra van Opstal, says basically, if worship is like some kind of pacifier for us, and it's like a soother, like my kids, they put themselves to sleep. They use different coping mechanisms to put themselves to sleep. But if our contemporary worship is a way of helping ourselves sleep and just wait out the toughness of the world, then we're missing the point. But I feel like when we worship and we see God as who God truly is, and we keep going back to God's pattern for shalom, we get encouraged about the pain that we see in the world, and we have something that gives us rest and gives us hope, believable hope that has been silenced, but it keeps on resurrecting. When we go back to keep looking at God, we worship because we know that there is a pattern, there's a prototype for shalom. It's not easy because the world is broken. And therefore our justice has to take the pattern of the anthem that's at the groan of creation right now. So I feel like it can't be business and pacifying songs as usual. So I'm passionate about the contextual worship. I want to worship I want to sing songs I don't know how to sing. I can't. I want to listen to songs that are spoken in Yoruba, sung by a Nigerian woman, and I can feel the heavens breaking because the soil is worshiping the way it was created to the people. The idea of a globalized, universalized worship, it steals from us because it doesn't cause us to pay attention to the particularities of our context, and it makes us lazy. We'll go for the hit, right? Such and such a band will make a song, we'll all sing it across Africa. Why, right? And it makes us lazy. So I'm passionate about activating people in their context to say, guys, we might not all sing the same song, but sing your song and we'll join your song to agree with God releasing what he has on your life. So that's my longing. So when I led worship at the Justice Conference, a song that was important for our context was a song called Jonum Zabalazo, and that song was sung in protests during the apartheid era in South Africa, and our fathers sang that song in street. And I remember the first time I heard that song, I was 6, and this crowd of people were going past my house, and it was a protest. Jonum Zabalazo, and I never forgot that song. And I remember as a campus pastor, my campus was always like a political campus, but in church, we only sang Bethel song, and we even did, I can't. And so, and then, but then I remember the day we were I don't know what was happening, and I felt the Spirit say, remix this song and sing it here in this space. And so the song says, it's basically join the revolution, join Mzabalazo, join the revolution. And I changed the lyrics to, I know my Jesus, he's the one who conquered over Satan on the cross. But I sang it with the melody from that song. And we sang, we had our fists in the air and like high knee, hey, ta, ta, ta. And it was like a protest throng. And it was in Durban I think it was in 2011. And then we sang it again at the Justice Conference. And I feel like for me, the fact that I know I can't sing that song in church as it is right now. I'm not leading worship in any church right now because I feel like there isn't space for protest that makes room for the praise that we need for what we see right now. So I want to see that happen in a different context. I want to see God activate the psalmists of right now, the ones that are saying, God, things are hard. Where are you? And let that authentic thing come out. And
Thank you so much, Lusanda, for that passionate opening. Propaganda, you come from a country that influences a lot of the music that we sing. Right now, it's the blessing that we are singing, and then we're all singing, it's a chorus, a song, Why are we afraid of singing other songs, lamentations? Why are we afraid of singing songs that, why are we afraid of speaking about our pain? Why must we wait to give a testimony? Why must we hope to win? Why can't we just sit in silence with our pain and with our sorrow? And, just like Job did and like Lamentations, it never ends in victory, but we see God even in the midst of that pain. Why is it so? And what can we do to reverse that?
You know what, man? Here's my answer is I don't know. You know, I don't know why we can't. I mean, I have a very cynical answer to this from an American perspective is, you know, we just believed the story America told us as a metaphorical nation of just like, you know, you work hard, you succeed, and we're a Christian nation, and you know, and it's hard to swallow that as a person of color. Like, really, are we? You know, I don't know. It didn't feel very Christian. You know what I'm saying? So our churches and the business of Christian industry, the business of worship, you know, and Christian music that has been, you know, replicated and exported across the world placates that narrative of, so in a lot of ways, like I said, it's a more cynical answer. So in a lot of ways, it's like, we are celebrating our comfort, our safety, you know what I mean? And at the end of the day, that's, at least in my opinion, I mean, that's the marker of what makes a song Christian. Is it safe? Is it clean? Does it make me comfortable? Is it celebratory? You know what I'm saying? So, because that matches American Christian, well, specifically white American Christian, you know what I'm saying? Like, so I think that, at least I say all that to say that oftentimes when people are talking about American Christianity, and what's been exported is white American Christianity. You know what I'm saying, right? So that's not an experience that the rest of us have. Black church sits in that pain. You know what I'm saying? We do lament. We do sing songs about lament. We do sing songs longing for that day. You know what I'm saying? And seeing that as part of our history, seeing that as part of our experience. We didn't rip the book of Lamentations out of our Bibles. You know what I'm saying? We are protesting. That's the white boys. You know what I'm saying? So I think that, like, it's important to understand that, and that sort of wing of the Christian church is reflective of just the broader culture as a whole. That's just whiteness. That's white fragility. That's white people who happen to believe a certain faith. So they sing songs that placate the way that, in the same way that the sister was like, yo, you're singing a song from your culture. You're singing a song in Kosa. You're singing a song in this, because they singing a song in their language. Their language is privilege. You know what I'm saying? So they sing like that. You feel me? So I think that, like, it's just unfortunate that, you know, they hold the purse strings. You know what I'm saying? They control the airwaves. You know what I mean? So that's what gets, and it feels great. It feels great to be a part of that. Who doesn't want to feel like they're a part of privilege? That there is no problems in the world. And if I just join this church and love Jesus, and, you know, and act like none of the problems don't happen, and that the only solution for all of pain and justice is just loving Jesus, then everything's okay. Of course, that feels great. You know what I'm saying? But it's just not what happened, you know? So to me, it's like, that's my answer of, like, why does that church do that? Because it feels great. It excuses their complicity. It means that they're now innocent, because it's like, well, it's not us causing problems. It's sin, you know. I'm not complicit in any way, you know what I'm saying? So let's sing like I'm not complicit. Let's come in here, build a fence around our faith, decide who's safe. You're in the fence, you outside the fence. We're gonna sing songs about how everything's okay in here, right? But everything out there, oh, that's different, you know. So, and in my mind, I probably have the same experience you have, where I'm like, okay, here's the thing, I'm in this fence and it's not safe. So I don't understand why you telling me that everything in here is safe, you know? So So yeah, I mean, I don't know if that specifically answers your question, but from my perspective as an American, it's like, yo, I'm on the outside of that too. I'm like, I don't understand why you guys are just okay with this, you know?
All right. Thank you so much, Propaganda. Thank you.
Man.
And before I bring in, Richard, Carol, why, from a theological perspective, why is it important to bring in the whole story, to sing a complete song, a song that start from Genesis to Revelation, not plucking out certain parts? That's one. Two, that the people who brought in the faith that we believe in Africa were white evangelicals, and they imported the gospel of triumphing always, us always winning, marching on to Zion, always winning, our country and the continent of Africa is extremely traumatized, from what we've gone through, and people who are shoved into countries, nations, torn apart, and a lot of atrocities done. How then can we sing songs that will acknowledge our pain, acknowledge the frustrations that we've gone through, and the trauma that we face as a continent, so that then there could be a possibility of healing? I don't know whether that makes sense, but yeah. Unmute.
Thank you for reminding me. So, wow, I think the reason we need to sing the whole song, because there's no joy without sorrow. There's no you don't experience. You can't. Life is not the way we make it to look like on Sunday. Life is not two fast songs and one slow song and we are done. Life is pain. And I think we need to know that we have permission we don't actually even need permission to have pain, because we have pain. So pain is there. And so how do we come into a space? And I think one of my frustrations with mainstream church is there can be a demonstration, there can be famine, and then you go to church and there is absolutely no expression of the pain of the country on that Sunday. There is absolute. So I feel like for us to really, we feel like we don't have permission to sing these songs or to question. And once you say the Jesus prayer, as we were told by the missionaries, you become a lamb that is silent, that does not question anything. And that's not who we are. And that's not, and actually also that Christianity is not a preserve of the missionaries who brought it. Christianity was here from before. And also to realize that they came and they brought with them their culture and their baggage. And it was a lot. And you see, we have to call that baggage out and say that's not it. That's not the good news of God. That's not the good news of Jesus. The good news of Jesus is about setting the captives free, and not just the spiritual captives, but actual oppressed people, setting them free. It's about giving sight to blind people. So if our faith is not one that gives sight to the blind, as in literal blind people, if that one that does not liberate, one that does not question why we are under bondage of debt, of patriarchy, of all those things, then our faith is not worth it. So we need to question. We need to put that in writing. We need to put that in song. And for me, I'm actually in this group, I'm the only one who cannot hold a tune or a note, actually. So I am speaking for the rest of us, for the others, that we need brave songwriters, because I think we are ready. We are ready to sing the brave songs. We just need permission. But permission will not be granted by empire. We will We are the ones with the permission. The songwriters, the people who've been given the skills by God, you're the ones with the permission. Write us these songs. We will sing in our bad voices. Please write us the songs we need to sing.
Thank you so much, Carol. Richard, now to you. I liked that part of reimagining Christmas and, this whole journey of, your whole journey of reimagining everything about Christianity. I think many of us need to do that. We all need to, reimagine the identity. We need to reimagine everything. As a writer and as a, somebody who calls yourself very disruptive, how do you think we need to equip, how can we equip the church, especially in Africa, to write complete songs? And why do you think it's important for us to, let me start afresh. How can we equip musicians to write songs that are complete, that songs that will talk about the sorrow, about the pain, not just about the joy and about the victory, but they talk about it? Because I usually feel like we are quiet in our moment, in our valley, we are quiet in our problems, and we are quiet in our trouble. But then the day when we win, then we come and give a testimony in the church. How then do we equip the body of Christ to speak about the pain where they are right now, especially in form of music as a writer?
Oh, wow. And every time you get into this conversation, it's so spiritual, like sometimes you have to catch your breath, and because once you start kind of walking these streets where you're looking at the history of humanity, and just walk from slavery, to Jim Crow, colonialism. That it does something to you. I don't know, your heart kind of gets ripped, and you look at our education system and see all the lies, that have been put in the books, like we don't even really know who we are. And I think the first place we have to start as musicians, artists, people in the creative space is to do the work. And we have to go into those dark places. We have to find his story is not my brother's story. Like history is not even about us. It's been changed, and there's just been this white supremacist agenda, that just runs through the whole of humanity. Look at even the version of Christianity that we hold on to and are almost ready to die for. It's like a false version of, it's a fake Messiah. It's like there's so much unlearning that we have to do first. There's so much groundwork that we have to do. I think the answer to your question is we have to be willing to do the work. Like Lusanda says, it's freedom time now. It's freedom time. The whole earth, the whole world is crying out, for freedom, and the artists are the ones who can kind of usher us into this moment, through songs and through the spoken word and through writing. But the artists have to do the work first, and unlearn and reimagine, imagine afresh, like think afresh. It's almost that kind of Berean concept where don't just believe what your pastor tells you. Don't just listen to his version of interpretation because he's gone to a white theological training college. You get it? Like that's how deep this thing is, like everything is white. And people, they get mad in the church when you start to talk about, about whiteness and dismantling it, because they think, okay, and so now you want to turn white people against black or black people against white people. But we have to put language to this. It's just the same concept of there are false prophets and there are true prophets, because there is a false version of Christianity, and unfortunately, that's kind of what we adapted. Like I had someone describe that the people would there would be a church somewhere in the middle of the village or away from the village, and people would come and with their own traditional clothes and everything, and at the river they would shed off their traditional clothes and put on this this nice shirt and trouser. You have to shed yourself so that you can sort of become acceptable as a Christian. So there's so much unlearning and so much reimagining that we have to do. So I think that would be what I would answer to the question. Like this is like, end game, like this is time for us to get free, and everyone is yearning for that. So as artists, we have to be ready to do the work and go into those dark places, and go into those uncomfortable spaces and go into lament and go into pain, and then we can put this pain into songs that people can sing. I'm not sure in our Kenyan context whether we have even started doing that. Do we have songs that people can hold on to? In a culture that tells you that you cannot cry because you're a man or crying is weak, do we have songs so people can channel this grief and this pain into? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Richard. You've just reminded me that in 2019, when I was having a bad anxiety and a mental health breakdown, the song that spoke to me through the entire journey is Wrecking Ball by Miley Cyrus. It captured my emotions. Like, I just felt like the world was wrecking my emotions, and I was perfectly okay with that song. Now, Lusanda, what song is speaking to you? I know South Africa is going through a very tough season right now. It's experiencing COVID-19 issues, and of course, just that. What song is speaking to you right now? And as a worship leader, what would you tell worship leaders across Africa, or people who are listening to us, why it's important to sing the emotions and to not just wait for victory, but to sing the emotions? I need first those are two questions, and then we go back to it.
So in the last while, part of what my brother Richard is talking about, which is reimagining, in the last while, I've found that one of the things that we are having to do now, because we're doing a lot of deconstructing, right, of what has been there, but what is it's like an atrophied arm, like an arm that it's like a new motion, it's a new muscle, right? It feels weird, when you've been sitting on your foot the wrong way, and then you start to move it feels awkward, you get pins and needles. I feel like this space is so new and it's so scary, but I remember it's how I felt when I held my first baby, where I knew I'm a mom and this is what I am, but I'm so aware that I've never been a mom, and I don't know what I don't know how, I don't know what I don't know, but I know that I've got to be a mom. I've got to love this little one. So there's something about this moment for me, which has meant for me that I've got to be willing to listen to the places that I've felt like I don't have permission to listen to, right? And Usis Carol was talking to us, and Duta was telling us about permission, right? We have permission. One of the things that has exhausted, I'm sorry for this preamble, but I promise you I'm getting to the point now, Dannish, but one of the things that has exhausted me in this last while has been seeing that a lot of the energy I spend, sometimes I spend a lot of my energy trying to fix things that don't want to be fixed, that just want to tick boxes, okay? And I want to educate people, and I put it on myself that I've got to make sure that, and I also want to take control of how the pace at which anti-racism in the church has to go, and then it burns me out. But I realize that part of that has to do with me being used to being a placeholder and being the token Black person who's going to do the work for white church communities that don't really want to do the work and they're scared to do the work. And I've always paid that price. And I realized it's a seeking for approval and permission, you know? And so recently I decided, actually, if I want to see a new thing happen, if I've never heard umbolo, or like the traditional Xhosa and enunciation of songs, that you won't hear that in church. You will hear it at a traditional ceremony, right? Being sung by the mothers and the fathers. They'll dance in a circle. Remember that, you know, they'll dance in a circle in a particular way. And there's a particular atmosphere that gets brokered, you know, when you're in a traditional thing and everyone is dancing in a circle. There's this collective spiritual moment that we're having. But when I want to bring that now into the church, there's like no prototype for that. And so I decided that if I'm gonna pursue something so different and so that I've been told is not welcome in a sacred space, I've got to listen to different things. So what's blessing me right now and opening up my worship, it's an artist called Zoe Modiga. She isn't considered a Christian artist or anything like that, but Zoe Modiga has a song that's called Abantu. And Abantu is a Abantu, but people, right? But the song, and it speaks to God, it speaks to the people, but it also sounds like it's a message from God. It sounds like it's prophetic, and it's saying to Black people, poverty is disorienting. This is not a way that you're supposed to be living, but things are going to change. And then it talks about poverty and then it repeats things. And when I listen to that song, I literally feel God just doing this to us as a continent, right? And she's singing it in the most beautiful way. And it's very strange, but I feel I literally have a worship experience when I listen to that, because she's singing. It's just the most beautiful thing, and she's singing to us. I feel like it's in the voice of God saying things are going to change. When you kill each other, people of Africa, when you kill each other, this is not the way things are supposed to be. Things are going to change. You know, it's none of this, God, I am your child. I am your child. It's none of this. It's not the self-pacifying worship. It's not that. And I feel like my soul doesn't know how to sit in that anymore. And I'm like, it's okay. So right now, that's the song that's blessing me. That album, I'd love to share a link to that entire album. But it's just that a lot of it is sung in Xhosa, so you might not understand. And I don't even think they've got like subtitles. I'm sorry. But it's really blessing me right now. What was your second question, my brother?
Second question is why it's important for church worship leaders to, embrace this whole complete thing you're saying. Why it's important, to embrace the whole complete thing. And what it does to the human soul,
So I feel like it also matures our witness, because we're not going to fall apart every time we are hit with a collective human tragedy. What's happening now is that we keep on starting from scratch because we've relied so much on celebration culture that we don't know how to sit with pain. It's like we're unfit. It's like trying to run up in the Kenyan, you're running in the mountain in Kenya. That's why these Kenyan runners, they do circles, right? Because they've been running at high altitude. By the time you get there to California, you're like, but you're running circles around it, right? And I feel like the church is created to live with lament, to live with loss, but to live with an irresistible hope. If we understood that the Bible is the only sacred book that was written from the viewpoint of a slave. But then what we do is that when we take it and we put the middle class in it, white Jesus is unfit, guys. He can't run. He can't. And in fact, we take on that unfitness of white Jesus. Yeah. We're like, oh my God. It's Beirut. Oh, where's God? And then of course I'm gonna close myself up in smoke screen and haha, right? Because the God of the. I mean, I love what Upu Jason was saying, that like, no, in the African tradition has always sat with pain. But God is also dealing with my idolatry. I think of white evangelical leaders, where I thought that white evangelical leaders, like if they're silent, God is silent. Now that God has dealt with my idolatry, I can actually remove them from, I'm like, shame. I feel sorry for you that white supremacy has caused you to idolize yourself. I feel compassion for you. And I really want you to heal. And I can remove myself from there and heal my people. And I trust God that, you know, they're going to be people that have the range to keep addressing and helping. But I feel like we can't wait for Master to wake up all of the time. We've just got to do it. Because Master is in trouble. And it's not, sometimes it's not our labor, I think. But I mean, and I'm willing though to kind of, you know, but maybe that's also because I'm exhausted. But I think that the church, we're going back to the glory of being the community that can really live with pain and hope. And we've just got to get used to using that arm again. It's and Sandra, she's like, she says it's like an agnosticism of some kind, where we separate the spirit from the physical world. And that thing, it's an idolatry, and we have to get rid of that. Especially the global South church, that we've held that theology, and I thank God for that. It has to reemerge. Sorry,
Thank you so much, Lusanda, for that. You've just triggered, I mean, holding on to what Richard said about reimagining, you know, I come from a community that had an elaborate mourning period when somebody died. We sat, we shaved our heads, we took what we call buru, it's called ashes, we did an elaborate thing, and the people who believed in white evangelical theology started shaming us in it. And remember, Kenya right now is one of the leading countries that is facing a surge in mental health issues. Remember, by the way, this America we keep on idolizing consumes over 75% of depression drugs in the entire world. They're the leading country that consumes 75% of the global, because we have no outlet for our pain. We have no outlet for our remorse. We are quickly, you know, turning everything into commercialization. So death, we've got to have a beautiful house. We've got to get an expensive coffin. Then eventually we are done, do not have time to mourn. Just get done, back to the city. You've got to go back to work. And then all that, it's a whole meaning. And I'd like to hear what Jason is saying about this. Jason, I've noticed that when I was younger in my faith, we really loved the Christian hip hop, the Lecraes and the Triples and the, you know, Truth, and they've come to Kenya a lot. But then I've come to learn that there's a huge divide between Christian hip hop by blacks and poets like you in the US, vis-a-vis the big celebration music that, you know, are sung in those churches. So you as a poet,
Yeah.
how has this journey been for you, and what are some of the prices you've had to pay for sticking to what you do, which is authentic and real? Secondly, you know, coming from that country, you know, and you know the divide, what more can people like you do than to bring in the theology of liberation to a continent that desperately needs it?
I love it. First of all, I don't know if y'all saw me losing my mind after all the things y'all were saying. Like, man, I'm over here tweeting and quoting and stuff like that, like the stuff y'all talking about, because this the game. I just was about to tweet, like, one day I pray Africa sends missionaries to America to teach us the gospel. You know what I'm saying? Man, one day, because y'all talking that talk. I think that let me couch this first. I don't have the same trajectory as like a Lecrae and a Trip Lee, in the sense that they were much more welcomed than I was, right?
Yes.
But that was because in their early days, they drank the Kool-Aid. You know what I'm saying? And were a part of the system. So originally, you know, as our histories go, like, we actually didn't get along, because I was like, you singing that master stuff. You know what I'm saying? Now, granted, I needed a, let me not say act like I'm the hero in this. I needed a lot of humility in this. You know what I'm saying? There was a lot of things that I still, like I said, I came from this Black Panther background. I came from a very militant, you know what I'm saying, burn it all down sort of perspective. You feel me? So as a matter of fact, the poem that you guys may know, the poem that put me on the map was a poem called Precious Puritans. You know what I'm saying? Where I came in attacking. You feel me? So for me, it was like, I don't understand why y'all like me so much, because I'm not playing nice with you. You know what I'm saying? But having said that, turns out as we became, me and Lecrae and them became much more friends, you know, and now like brothers, like this is my family. You know what I'm saying? Knowing that's what happened, realizing that they were wrestling with the same sort of like things off stage, you know, that I was saying on stage, you know, and then eventually, you know, we started having another wave of uprisings in justice back in like 2012, 2013, when it was almost like the American church realized that these were Black men. You know what I mean? When they were like, wait a minute, you know, I thought that, you know, and we all kind of like believed a little bit in a lot of ways, we all kind of thought that, like, I know I did, when I walk into this room, I'm assuming the people around me, because of how great and how well rehearsed your theology is, that you know the same stuff I know, that you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm assuming these things, and then when a Black man gets murdered in the streets by the police, I don't understand why you not mourning, right? So for me, I was more like shell shocked, like, really, you know? But again, my issue was I never had that fan base. They had to mourn the loss, you know what I'm saying? And had to decide, like, okay, what am I going to keep doing, right? Do I still want to keep, you know, these big checks, you know what I'm saying, for these big events, you know what I'm saying, where you have to keep compromising yourself? And they had to go through their own sort of like, you know what, this is not worth it. You know what I'm saying? Nor, not only is it not worth it, it's not Jesus, you know? So we kind of like went through a lot of that stuff together, you know what I'm saying? But like I said, for me, I wasn't loved like they were. You feel me? So I didn't have a lot of the same baggage. I don't know if that makes sense. So now that's one thing. Now, secondly, navigating, like, it's important to remember there's navigating Christian industry, like the business of it, and then there's navigating American culture as a whole. And because American culture is so, like you said, entrenched in white supremacy and entrenched with this like cultural white evangelical, like, it's hard to like disentangle all of those things. So you're navigating them all at the same time, right? It's hard to, like I said, it's hard to like pull those things apart. So saying all that, it's important to understand that like the American church, the white American church, is just a product of white America. You know what I'm saying? They're the same. You know what I mean? So when you know that, it's just the church is just saying the same racist stuff, just in nice terms. You know what I'm saying? They just saying it nice. They just not cussing when they say it, but you're saying the same thing, you know? So and the industry, Christian music industry, was built by that and was made to serve it. So Christian hip hop, it's important to understand, is not its own industry. It is a part of CCM. It is a part of Christian. So since it's just a part of a thing that never wanted us in the first place, it's never going to really have a voice. You know what I'm saying? Because it's still an urban Black music. And at the end of the day, these people are racist. They just don't want to hear from Black voices, or they want to hear from Black voices that tell them what they want to hear. You understand what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, in my mind, I'm like, I don't wear on my shoulder any weight of reforming Christian music in any way. I'm gonna make the music I make. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna say what I say because it's right. You understand what I'm saying? There is a field, there's a harvest in front of me. There are people that come to shows. I'm not worried about nobody's conference. I'm not worried about nobody's festival. We book our own tours. We sell our own tickets. You can come when you're ready to come. The albums are free because of streaming music. You can, at this point, you can download, you can listen to whoever you want at this point, you know? So if someone comes to my Spotify, streams my music, and then comes and tells me I'm wrong, I'm like, you didn't have to listen to this. Like, there's so much music out. You don't have to care what I say. You know what I'm saying? But if it resonates, beautiful. So all of us, I think, I can't speak for everyone, but I can say at the end of the day, it's like, I don't have time when people are literally dying in the streets, right? People are literally I don't have time to fight a battle with you that you don't know you're in. You know what I'm saying? And are not equipped to do that. I'm like, that's up to y'all's pastors. Now, y'all pastors call me and say, hey, can you help me navigate this? To which case I send them reading material. I'm like, I'm not going to do this homework for you. Like, here, there's hundreds of books written on this. And if you don't know racism's a thing and you don't see it in here, I don't understand what make you think I'm gonna help you. Like, there's something seriously wrong with you. If you really can't look around our country, you feel me? I'm like, I'm not sure there's much I can do for you at this point. You feel me? So for me, it's like, I'm just gonna continue, and I could say the same with Lecrae and for the rest of my friends, like, we're gonna continue to run our race, continue to grow, continue to, when we have opportunity to say what we mean, right? To not hold our tongue. When people ask me, yo, who are you listening to? What are you reading? I quote Africans. I'm like, I'm reading this person. I'm listening to this person. Oh, I don't listen to that. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, so when you start saying, like, again, going back to this whole, like, you know, what we've decided is safe and orthodox and stuff, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, I'm not telling y'all something y'all don't already know. It's white men. They chose that if it come from here, it's safe. When you start pulling into, like, you start asking, like, yo, let me talk to this, just for argument's sake, yo, let me go to Ethiopia. Let me talk to these Coptic Christians. Let me talk to these people. Why am I talking to them? Well, because it's an older Christian. They were Christians before you, fool. You know what I'm saying? So, like, maybe they didn't figure some stuff out. Maybe they've been wrestling with this stuff longer than you've been wrestling with it. You feel me? So, like, you know, so let me ask some better questions. So for me, it's like, over here, I think one of the solutions can be is like, man, you just got to start, like, eating from a much wider table. You feel me? But I don't, and I can't stress this enough, I don't feel any burden, you know what I'm saying, to make this industry, right? Because that's what I'm saying. We just talking about an industry. You talking about money. And I'm like, they're going to take care of their money. They're going to take care of their bag. Like, that's not my concern. Then do what you got to do. You got an audience. You got people you trying to sell music to. Sell your music. I don't care. Just don't call it Christian. Just don't tell me it's worship. You just selling music. It's fine, but it's just music. You understand what I'm saying? So I'm not gonna try to reform this whole thing. This thing don't love me. This thing ain't for, it wasn't built for me. It's never built. It's not built for my people. It's not built for the people I talk to. It's not built for the people that I sell my tickets to. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the case, then, like, I'll do whatever you want. I don't care. To me, that's like a render unto Caesar situation. Like, that's that's Caesar's. You can have it. I know what I do though. You know what I'm saying? I know what me and my friends do. I know what we trying to see in the world, and that's what we out here doing.
can I jump into that? Because when sometimes for the Kenyan audience, for the South African and the USA audience, they can understand racism. Kenya has racism, but it's not in your face. That's a whole other conversation that we might have. But I think for us, we need to speak about classism and the fact that when, and even with our artists, you look at the kind of music they create, the aim is to be accepted into a certain class of church, of community, of way of being. And so it is always aspiring to have, and we are not saying that you're not saying that aspiring to have a car or something is bad, but we need to deal also with the fact that even our churches are classed churches. The same way there is white and black churches, it's the same way. Even our church planting mechanisms are, will plant a church for the rich, a church for the middle class, and a church for the poor. And that's wrong. Why are we doing that? It's race. So if we can call things racist, let's call things classist, and let's announce to us that is wrong. That model is wrong. And the reason why we go back to the table, the communion table, and why it's the great equalizer, is that when Jesus left that as a remembrance of him, he did it to ensure that there would be no rich or poor, that all of us shared in this moment where we were all nothing, where we accepted our brokenness and our depravity, that at that table, if I was looking at Lusanda, who I've stolen from, and we are sitting at the same table, that I would have thought twice. The reason why we now want to have middle class churches and rich churches is because the people who are stealing from us need to have their own space where we'll accept their tithes.
Yeah.
And so we cannot sing, we cannot call that out, and we can do nothing.
Wow.
But we'll have the poor churches in the slums, we'll have 20 of them, and everybody will do what they need to do, but they'll be okay with being poor and doing their 20 shillings contribution. And on the same day, on the same Sunday, there's a church contribution that's into its millions.
Dang.
Yet we are worshiping the same God.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Carol, before you leave, I just need you to, sometimes when you talk like this, people who are in mainstream churches may think that we are getting these things off maybe writings that are called apocrypha. I don't know why they're called apocrypha, but anyway, tell me, can you bring this conversation back to scripture? Do we have songs of lamentation? Do we have songs of pain? Do we have songs of sorrow in the church, for example? Do you have any in the Bible, rather?
Hey, real quick.
Yes.
One question. I gotta switch to my phone. Can someone, and the thing's locked. So can you like I need to get off my laptop and get to my phone so I can continue this convo. Sorry, guys.
All right. As I'm doing that, can Lusanda or Richard answer that? Because I think they can.
Richard, go on. Richard,
Yes,
Richard, go on. Richard, yes. Yeah.
Dannish, sorry. Songs of.
Yeah, like for example, we have scriptural provisions, like people who sang in the Bible, songs of lamentation, songs of pain, songs of sorrow. It doesn't look like this conversation we're having is alien, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think if we look at the whole book of Lamentations, basically is a response to that, like just songs of pain and grief. And when I listened to like a commentary on the book, Prophetic Lament, and he says that Jeremiah could have chosen to write the book himself, but he saw himself as being of some privileges, So he wanted the women and the people who are really suffering, the people in the front line, to be the ones whose voices were heard. So Lamentation, they are basically, gives us kind of like a guide on how we are to listen to the voices of the suffering, the marginalized, And we also have a Mary song in Luke 1:46-55. And I think verse 53 says that he has brought down rulers from their thrones, but has lifted up the humble. He has filled the hungry with good things, but has sent the rich away empty. Miriam's song in Exodus I found quite interesting, because she says that the horse and the rider he has thrown into the sea. And I kind of thought, wow, so it's okay for us to rejoice when the wicked, perish, or when the wicked are destroyed. We're not rejoicing because it's our own strength, but that's a huge kind of like gray area in like white Christianity, like just celebrating the downfall of someone who is outrightly wicked, corrupt. When we did reimagining Christmas, I remember there were two scenes that caused a bit of discomfort. Two things. The first thing is the person who was playing out Jesus was female, and that rubbed people a bit the wrong way, because people are always thinking, what are you trying to do? What are you trying to say? Are you feminist and all that, But the second thing is because we had a scene where, there was this church service, and who comes in? It's a corrupt politician, coming to give huge amounts of money, and we kind of pointing to who that was, because, in the Kenyan context, we know the rich, corrupt politicians who are Christians. So they are kind of invited to go for fundraising, and they're welcomed, and they're VIP and all that, But people had a problem with us alluding to this rich corrupt politician, because they're like, why are you judging? Like, somebody asked me, like, has he been convicted in a court of law so that now you can call him corrupt? And I'm thinking, like, the same corrupt judicial process is what you're waiting to corrupt a rich politician of corruption. It's impossible, it doesn't work that way, But, that song by Miriam kind of tells us that, when God deals with the wicked, that those who are righteous and, can rejoice, can celebrate, in seeing the downfall of the wicked, And anyone else can chime in on some of the other songs.
All right. Lusanda, you can weigh in on that, on the same question, other songs that, are in the scriptures and stuff.
The Song of Mary as well, for me, is very important. And the crib notes is that Carol had kind of highlighted that to me. And the reason I always love the Song of Mary is because somehow Mary has been made like this docile little girl who was just kind of like, yes, Jesus, I shall be pregnant. Yes, God, I shall be pregnant. And then she was pregnant. And then she had child. And then the child was awesome, right? But then when I think about the song that Mary sung, when it dawned on her that God was asking her to give birth to a Messiah, is that Jewish spirituality didn't separate a spiritual Messiah from an actual, like a political prophetic figure in the context, right? And I loved that the Song of Mary, it speaks about this Messiah coming to confront systems that were oppressing people at that time, and that Messiah was going to face off with wickedness, and that, like, God heard her personally, but that this thing is happening is not a private event, it's a public event, it's a societal event. It's an acknowledgement that there's a colonial power in our midst, and this colonial power has abused us, right? And all of those things were in a prayer, right? And I think also the Song of Mary, if we look at the Psalms, right? The Psalms that were sung during the exile, like the Sons of Asaph. And I mean, it's there. And I know that part of my spiritual formation also, the tough part of my spiritual formation was that's when I wouldn't sing the whole song because I didn't know what to do when the psalmist would say, they are wicked, God. Look at what they're doing to your people. Because part of my spirituality was that I can't have a political consciousness. My social memory, my political, like what's happening in an actual context, like powers that are operating, they're not really part of my spiritual walk because Jesus is here to save just my soul. But then the psalmists, they brought what is happening in the soul of the nation as a conversation to this God. And so it's like, again, like what Richard was saying, it's in the whole Bible. And I think we have to re-examine our relationship to the words of the Bible, and examine our relationship with them in terms of how do we see ourselves being immersed, like are we aware of our social positionality here on earth, right? And I feel like my spiritual formation has made me not look at place. So I can't see place. I can't see that I live in a middle class suburban area and my house is made of brick. This is why it's made of brick. And this is why I don't stay over there. There's what's absent where I stay, right? Why is this my vision of upward mobility? What am I trying to avoid? And who taught me that? Where did I learn that? And so, I think it's the same way that whiteness, or white people don't get taught to see their race. There's something about classism also, and how also, when you go up in life, you also don't get taught how to see your space. And so when I see that in the Psalms, in the book of Lamentations, when the prophets like Huldah was singing, Anna was singing when she encountered Mary and the baby, it was a song that was both political and they were spiritual, and they were not divorced from each other. It was all there because God was not, he wasn't compartmentalized. God was in the cosmos, and he's everywhere. So and I mean, it's uncomfortable because, like Jason was saying, it's patronage also, it's the funding, and so when you are willing to see where your spirituality is happening, there's a cost to that. But I feel like it's everywhere. It's what Richard was saying. When we sing the whole song, it's everywhere. It's in the text. But I think because of how we've understood New Testament theology as something that's just talking about our spirituality, that's when a lot of these things get divorced. That like this full song of lamentation and praise and pain and hope and beauty and the ugly.
All right, Lusanda, Carol, before you come in, I'm seeing a very interesting conversation which I'd like to bring in propaganda in. Somebody is saying that, call me a pessimist, but classism will never end, just like racism. Those are the isms because there'll always be some guy or group of guys with air between their ears. Therefore, with that question becomes, how can we bring it to an acceptable minimum? Allow me to read this scripture, Habakkuk 3. And Habakkuk 3 talks about the plague going before God, pestilence following his footsteps. He stood and shook the earth. He looked and made the nations to tremble. Then Habakkuk asks, were you angry with the rivers, Lord? Was your wrath against the streams? Did you rage against the sea when you rode your horses and your chariots to victory? Then he goes ahead to say that the sun and the moon stood still in the heavens at the glint of your flying arrows, at the lightning of your flashing spear. In wrath you strode through the earth, and in anger you threshed the nation. You came out to deliver your people, to save your anointed one. You crushed the leader of the land of wickedness. You stripped him from head to foot. With his own spear, you pierced his head when his warriors stormed out to scatter us, gloating us though. And then I like this part which says that, we always read this part that though the fig trees does not bud and there are no grapes on the vines, though the olive crop fails and the fields produce no food, though there are no sheep in the pen and no cattle in the stalls, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. I will be joyful in God, my Savior. I don't know why we don't understand that this God is the God who, when he stood, decay crept into the bones and legs trembled and the floor of the ocean vomited. So propaganda. I like this line you saw in your line here about defending God is like defending a lion. Why are we so? Why do we imagine this God to be such a crybaby that small things like classism and racism and small things he cannot deal with, and therefore we've got to only talk about good things because we are afraid of making God to look bad?
I think that it's okay. So like we can't help but like live where we are in the sense that it's logical to say that if God is good, then things shouldn't be bad, right? I mean, that's logical, you know? So, and if we want to tell people, you know, yo, this is the way we should think about the world, universe, all this good stuff. And then they go, great, okay, cool. So, well, in your world, is there any suffering? And you're like, yeah, there's still suffering. Like logically, fools will be like, well, then why do I need to, what am I doing then? You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, and especially going back to like what was even said earlier about like, and if all you're talking about is like, this God you talking about just worried about my soul, but not my body. Like, well, then where do I experience this God? Are you telling me I'm gonna experience God somehow outside of my body? That's how I experience God in my body. You know what I'm saying? So like, if this God is not concerned about my physicality also, or even the systems of rules that rule the world I exist, if he's not concerned about that, then like I don't need to be concerned about him, you know? So I think it's natural to be like, well, no, it's not like that. You know what I mean? It's this, you know what I mean? It's this. So it's like it's our, you know, sort of instinct to try to want to make it seem more pretty than it is. Again, because I think that as time has went on, just the history of just over the centuries, not just like our modern times, I'm just saying over the centuries, as you know, the birth of the middle class, like, you know, like we were talking about earlier, just the birth of classism and social stratification and, you know, workers versus, you know, the gentry, like all those different things. As that time has went on, we equated success with, or God with success, God with comfort, and you know, and I mean, it's as old as like, it's as old as the book of Job, you know, like he's saying you're suffering, it must be because you did something wrong, right? You know what I'm saying? So it's just, this is our logic. So if that's our logic, then I'm like, no wonder we brought that into our theology. I think that, you know, but the challenge of good theology is saying, hey, you know, maybe it's not that simple. You know, maybe what you guys have been articulating, to where it's like, no, there's a reality of being, you know, well acquainted with pain and suffering and you know, loss, and that, you know, the God we actually serve never excuses us of that, but promises, you know, a walk with, a laboring with, you know what I'm saying? Then the weight of trying to make him fit our comforts leaves. Yeah, is that like, you know, I don't exist on another earth. just because I believe these things, I'm still on the same earth, you know. And I'd even go back to something you didn't ask me, but was being mentioned about classism and racism always being here. And I appreciate y'all making a distinction between the two, and how, at least where we're at, because ethnically America is so much more diverse, you know what I'm saying? It's easier to see those things. I can imagine like being in a much more like, at least visually, you know, monolithic society, you know what I'm saying? Like the prejudice play out differently, you know what I'm saying? But, you know, these things, I see classism, you know, gender issues, racism, all kind of swimming in the same ocean, you know, where in the ocean of culture, you know what I'm saying? But I will say this, for the Christian, we have accepted that we're never going to reach full righteousness and sinlessness. Like, we've accepted that that's our walk. And while we're here, we're never going to see a day that we've defeated sin. So then using that logic is like, well, then why are you trying to live righteously then, if you're never going to defeat it? Well, I'm like, well, because this is our walk. This is our practice. I'm not, it's not so much the goal of this, but it's the fellowship, the walk with the Savior. You know what I'm saying? The process of that. And the process is the beauty. And this is what I'm doing while I'm here. And this day better than yesterday. You know what I'm saying? Like, so we have that understanding in our spiritual life. I don't know why we can't see that in our societal life. That, like, even if racism won't be defeated, that don't mean I'm not gonna try. I'm not gonna make the experience of my neighbor better. You know what I'm saying? Even if classism isn't defeated, and I would argue that classism can be, you know what I'm saying? We just are not, our imagination ain't big enough. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, like, we made classism up, like we made our social, like, it's humans made that up. It doesn't have to be that way. We just made it up. You know what I'm saying? We said that, you know, this thing we agreed is worth something. So since I have more, you know what I'm saying? Like, we don't have to think like this. You know what I'm saying? Right? So I would say that classism is something that can be defeated. You know what I'm saying? But having said that, the process, the ritual of practicing being a better neighbor, practicing living out the things, the grace that's been given to me, is a noble cause. Whether it's going to end or not is not my question. My question is, like, how can I end it for this person? Like, for the person in front of me, how can I eliminate your suffering in its best way? How can I eliminate the suffering of the people around us in the best way as I can, rather than just like folding over and saying, well, it'll never end. You know, like, if some of you guys are parents, if my child gets sick, am I going to be like, well, she's going to die anyway, so I'm not gonna... Like, no, it's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Like, no, I'm gonna work to see her as healthy as she can be. I know she gonna die. I know we all gonna die, but that don't mean I'm just gonna give up. Like, you know, so all that. So I wanted to go back to that, but ultimately, like, I feel like our instinct to try to defend something we care about is just that. It's just an instinct. You know what I'm saying? And it takes a lot of like practice and unlearning to be, and experience with others who have experienced suffering, who have, you know, went through hard times and have came out the other end, that do have sort of a understanding of how the world works, and how God is, you know, cosmic over all of it. And that, like, you know, I don't see the world as like hills and valleys, or life is like ups and downs, goods and bads. And you know what I'm saying? Where it's like there's good times and there's bad times. It's more like, to me, like a railroad track, where it's like amazing things are happening right next to terrible things all the time. You know what I'm saying? And we just kind of ride the train. You feel me? It's like it's both happening, and I am not alone in this. You know what I'm saying? I have a savior that cares. You know what I'm saying? So, and that becomes sort of the focus and the joy rather than saying, well, look, well, terrible things happens, therefore your God doesn't care. I'm like, I don't know, man. I just don't think the goal is comfort.
Carol, your final comments, and as you tell people how to plug into Msingi and everything else.
Wow, thank you. I'm really honored to again, I keep saying this, to host these conversations, to be in this room where these conversations are. But I want to say two things. One, I'd like to share what my favorite song right now is. It's a song I heard. It's actually Wimbo wa Mapambano. It's the song that activists sing as their song of solidarity, and every verse, every time I sing that song, I hold my heart because it echoes the heart of justice, and it's a song that has been written by people who are ready to give of their life and die for this country. And I also want to say that to honor, to the reason I am so excited to have Richard and Lusanda here is, for the first time, I did not know what to do when I worshipped God. And I was telling Lusanda that the first time I raised the power fist in worship, and that's what I do now, was when she led worship at the Justice Conference. That those two worlds came together. That you can do this and worship God at the same time. You can fight for justice, the God of justice, and worship God at the same time. And when I watched the play that Richie and Mweni put up, I cried the whole time because they reimagined Christmas, and they did it, and it was Christmas unusual. And for me, it echoes the psalmist when he says, how can we sing the songs of God in exile, by the rivers of Babylon? That has been renditioned into reggae. But I actually want to read it. As I know we are out of time, but I want to share my reflection. My closing reflection is this: by the rivers of Babylon, we sat and wept when we remembered Zion. There on the poplars we hung our harps, for there our captors asked us for songs. Our tormentors demanded songs of joy. They said, sing us one of the songs of Zion. How can we sing the songs of the Lord while in a foreign land? For me, I feel like every day, the people who've put us in exile demand the songs of Zion from us. And what we do, we keep on singing that song. We sing the song of joy while we should be singing songs of lament, while we should be singing songs in exile, while we should be singing new songs for the people who do not know, who do not know where their food is coming from, for people who their livelihoods has been stolen. And that will give them courage to fight for justice. And so I'd like to share that. And for support of Msingi, you can follow us on our pages. For those who are able to donate to the work, there's PayPal. There's what's the other way? There's the one for artists. What is that called? That name has gone. You can look into our page and see how you can support. But please like our page, follow, share, and join us in the conversations that we have. So thank you. Yeah.
Richard, your final comments?
Yeah, we need to reimagine worship. The worship and justice. Justice, it sends shivers, to Christians. People like start you say that word and everyone's kind of like running away. But it's not that complicated. It's all about just love. Love God, love your neighbor, love your brother. That's it. So how can we worship this God how can we love this God when we don't love our neighbor? It's impossible. He says, you're living in darkness if you claim to love someone you've never seen, but you hate the person who's right next to you. So God help us that we can sing our songs of lament, write our songs of lament, sing our songs of freedom, write our songs of freedom, sing our song for justice, yeah, thank you so much for inviting me to this conversation.
Thank you so much, Richard. Lusanda, your final comments?
Fam, I guess for me, it's just feeling so humbled that thank you, Nduta, for hosting this space for us. I think this is the power for me of Abantu, that we come around at tables and in rooms like this, and we cook a pot together, and we like what you were saying, it's a communion table where everything is equalized, and we see each other's struggles, and we see each other's hopes. I think that for me is what is at stake if we don't write those brave songs, like you're saying. I actually wanted to, I'm going to ask you after this call, I'm going to ask you to say that thing for me again. You said, write brave songs, and Sandra said that. And I think that's what encourages me about the idea of being courageous enough to put praise and protest and lamentation together, because it's something that's never been done. And then we don't need to wait for permission. We just need to be courageous and trust that this is a time for that, and then creating these spaces of reflection and replenishment for the journey in the long haul. I also particularly enjoyed what my brother, there was so much. I just wanted to thank also what Jason was saying about the way in which we have to go find our brothers, right? Everyone is in a different part of their journey, but how he was describing his relationship to his colleagues, of Black colleagues in the same industry, and that he knows, what your journey is, which is not to reform Christian, it's to do what you have to do, but then to be present when people are on their journey as a sojourner as well. And I think that's what I want to always aim to do, and that it's actually getting to know brothers and sisters. Now I know you, Dannish, now I know you, Richard, now I know you, Jason, and that this is how we become what Nduta coined in our class, a collaborative community of change. Those words never left me. So I'm not here to write songs for Kenya, right? We need everybody, all hands on deck, to release their songs, and what we're there to do is to celebrate the different things that are coming up, because we're all the better for it. We're all the better for it if the different songs come up. So we need each other. Thank you so much for this space.
All right, Jason, it would be a tragedy to end it without a brief piece from you. So your final comment and a brief piece. As everyone writes their handles here, I'll read them out, social media handles, so that we can follow you, we can like and build this collective community of change. Absolutely.
Encourage.
Encourage. Right. Propaganda, yes. Your final comment and a brief piece.
Wait, I gotta perform. Wait a minute, everybody on here is artists, and I'm the one that gotta do. Okay. No. I guess, man. Like I'm just encouraged, man. I just learned so much, man. I enjoy. I just, in some ways, like I wish America had the access I have, and I guess they do, but just the wherewithal to come find people like you guys. who are, I mean, you're saying what we need to hear, but we just so arrogant to think that we have something to tell you. And it's not that we don't, it's just that like our relationship, like the sister said, needs to be symbiotic, man. I just feel like every time I step into a space like this, like I learn so much, man. And like I'm just so humbled by it. So like for me, I'm just still processing like all the gems you guys dropped and the way that you were able to like put it together, you know what I mean? We're totally over time. I guess a quick story. I'll try to do a poem. I'm just so blown away by all the stuff I've learned right now that I'm just like trying to get my head into performance space. But like, I guess a quick story was in Durban actually. I was talking to a homie out there, and just about like, God, man, we just need to send our leaders to here. Like, we need to learn from y'all, man. Like you, like the way the cultures you've had to navigate, the way you've had to like unravel and tear things apart. You know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like we have a lot we can learn from y'all. One thing he said was like, he was remembering a time he was doing some like outreach out in the bush, right? And he said one of the tribesmen were like, hey, I've been listening to you guys for the last couple months. You know, you've been saying a lot of amazing things. And he goes, I'm in. I think I hear it. I believe in Jesus. I understand what you're saying. I'm in. My question is, which one of my wives should I stay married to? And you know, and he goes, I know there was like, I understand your Bible is against this. He's like, I don't get it because Moses had a lot of wives, but we'll answer that for me later. I just want to know, because this one has a kid, that one I love, that she was first, and I'm like, I don't know what, you know what I'm saying? It's so, when he asked me that, when he's presented that, I was like, there is not a seminary in America anywhere that has not only can answer it, but has never asked that. You understand what I'm saying? I was like, we have no answer for you. Like, if you know, so that's what I mean by like, every time I sit down and talk to like believers from the continent, y'all done already like, you're doing calculus. Like, you act like you're you're answering questions 40 years ahead of us, you know? And I say all that just to say, like, I appreciate just that one moment. That's the type of stuff where I'm just like, I appreciate, like, God, y'all making me think way further than I think now. Anyway, so I mean, if I have to do it, let me see. And now, you oceans, you mighty blue tides, tell us your stories. Spare no punches, hold no details. Your legacy, it's as curious as dark matter, or the heart of a woman, you sunsets. Show me no mercy. Tell us how we made you proud and we failed you in the same breath. How hands that lay waste to hopes and dreams can be shapers of epic destinies. How every triumphant march is chock full of Achilles' heels. How our heroes are fallen. How life is funny, it's fast, it's slow, it's both and, it's either or, it's patient building. You boneyards, remind me that I am animated dust. So is the pedestal I put my mama on, and the platforms we use to reach your ears sit in your hard drives. Remind me that we sit at the same table, and teach me to pay attention to this moment, and please keep me home. There it is.
Thank you so very much, Mr. Propaganda. On that high note, we urge you to follow Msingi Trust on social media, Ngugi and Ng'ang'a on social media, follow Lusanda Mashua on Instagram, follow Africa Sound Recordist on Instagram, and African Soundman on Twitter. Follow the son of Kano, aka Dannish Odongo, across all platforms. I'm very consistent. And I wish you all the very best. Enjoy your evening. Keep on interacting with this continent. And since I started attending Msingi and having this conversation, there are songs I've stopped listening to, especially of those mega big churches. And now we listen to true music. And may God bless you all and have a lovely night. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dannish. And I'd like to close us off with this song.
Tutanyakua mashamba yetu, tupiganie uhuru wetu, tuikomboe elimu yetu, utamaduni na viwanda vyetu, utamaduni na viwanda vyetu. Sisi hatutaki kudhulumiwa, hatutaki tena mauaji, ili tuliangushe haki na uhuru zichanue, haki na uhuru zichanue, uhuru wetu wa Kenya.
But I think there's another underlying reason that has undermined the global fight against poverty. That's violence and lack of compassion for fellow human beings.
Nataka ile tukue kama wale wengi. Politician hatatumia vijana kwa vizuri, atatumia vijana kucreate wealth. Sisi kama walemavu tupate yale ambayo wengine wanapata. Vijana hawaangushwi, hawakui victimized.
It's a just country. We want a country where there is respect for the rule of law, and there is the trust that when a child is born, will have a full life, which is full of dignity.
Oh, we lost 2 people. Kwaherini, everybody on Facebook Live.